Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist, and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
On a recent episode of the WorryFree Retirement, this question was referenced as one of the most common questions asked by savers faced with making sure that they are not going to run out of money in retirement. How much money does one need to retire comfortably? Or, as today's question poses, an even deeper dive into the reasons so many savers worry about their financial futures, how much money do you need in retirement to be worry-free? And the good news, let's have a drum roll, please. The amount of money to do so might be less than you think. So let's get started. Well, welcome, folks, to the WorryFree Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest retirement planning specialist and the author and creator of the WorryFree Retirement process, Tony Walker. And before we share with you the difference between retirement planning and being worry-free in it and something called financial planning, let me introduce two young lads in the WorryFree production studios who sure make a difference in producing this show each week. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, what's up with the financial world and telling savers this, that to be comfortable and worry-free in retirement, you're going to need at least $1.4 million saved for retirement? I mean, I don't know if they're talking about those retired in New York or maybe Los Angeles, possibly, yeah, but not the great states of Kentucky or Indiana where this show is broadcast. In order for the financial world to survive and prosper, they must have other people's money, or something we call OPM. They do this by telling savers what they must have in order to be comfortable in retirement. These are the same people who brought you something I used to call and adhere to called financial planning. The same folks who keep telling savers that in order to be worry-free in retirement, you'll have to take more risk in the stock market as well as save more money in the future due to inflation. So the question is, should you be listening to a financial world that is biased at best, or consider the thoughts of someone who has been at this for more than 40 years, met in person with nearly 20,000 savers, overseen more than 5,000 written game plans, and literally wrote the book on how to be worry-free in retirement? Well, let me use the next 20 minutes or so on this show to share with you the secret to being worry-free in retirement. And believe it or not, you don't have to have as much money as you think to pull it off. So stay tuned as I share with you why retirement planning is more of an art than it is a science, and an important distinction between what we call rate of return and return on your investment, and what those two things have to do with being worry-free and in using and enjoying your money. I'm Tony Walker. You stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Our Tony Walker Financial 5-star review comes to us from Daryl. Have been with Tony Walker Financial for over 15 years, never been disappointed with his services. I would highly recommend Tony and his excellent staff. Tony Walker Financial is a great way to have a worry-free retirement. You do not have to twist every day worrying about your finances. Tony can help you find time to drive your Mustang worry-free. For more information, visit TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255.
So, Jennifer, let's talk a little bit about something called suitability. And what the audience may not be aware of is actually advisors, agents are not supposed to put 100% of the money of the clients into an annuity or annuity. So speak to the problems that if somebody does do that with just putting all their money into one annuity.
Right. So with annuities, we want to make sure that client's assets are not completely tied up should they have an emergency event arise at some point. So we want to make sure that they have enough liquid funds for said emergency, as well as being able to protect as many assets as they have possible in an annuity product.
And it's not an easy process. We represent a lot of different companies. Maybe speak to the differences, some companies, and what are they looking for when they say our assets liquid?
Liquid just means easily accessible. So a client could have many properties or maybe some collectibles. Those are not necessarily considered liquid, although they are still total assets. So we have to kind of take that into account as well. What is readily accessible for a client should they need access to funds? And we don't want to tie those up for them.
Yeah, and I know with our game plan, when we do the split IRA, a lot of people say, well, why do you want to put that Charles Schwab in there? But I know you're in the annuity department, but obviously it does help to have that liquidity in the Charles Schwab. And also, if we have a mailbox money annuity, allows it to accumulate and continue to grow for more mailbox money.
Yes, absolutely.
And one more thing on the fixed interest annuities, as we record this show in October of 2024, those rates are starting to drop down. But if somebody just says, hey, I don't want any fees, I'm okay tying up my money for 5 years currently, and I know these could change, but currently what kind of rates can they get and lock in that rate for a period of up to 5 years?
Currently, we're about 4.6%. They have the opportunity as well to get a monthly interest check on those type of annuities. So assets are locked up for, like you said, 3 to 5 years, whatever they were to choose, but they also have the opportunity to get a monthly income from those. And then after the 5 years is up, they can draw their principal back out and start all over with the same amount of money that they put in. So it does tie up their assets momentarily, but they do have the option to possibly retrieve some of those as well, the interest earned at least.
Well, thank you so much for all you do, JJ.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. So as we have studied and worked with fixed indexed annuities for more than 20 years, something I've learned is one of the problems with a fixed indexed annuity is being tied into what's called the renewal date. In other words, whenever you purchase the annuity, between that time and 12 months from the date of purchase is how they're going to value the annuity. And that can be a problem up until now. Let me show you what I mean by that. So as we think of a fixed indexed annuity and how in the world, we'll use June 1st of 2024, how in the world a fixed indexed annuity may not make money even when the stock market has gone up. This can happen, and let me explain how this works. So with a typical fixed indexed annuity, they're going to look at a point of time based on the contract anniversary of the product. So if your contract was issued on June 1st of 2024, they're going to look and see what the market does between now and June 1st of 2025. This is the traditional way they value the annuity. But look at what can happen here. What if right before your contract comes up, let's say the market has done well, maybe the market even at its high was at 15%, okay? And you're thinking, hey, I got an indexed annuity, I'm protected, can't lose any principal, I'm going to make some money this year. If that market, based on the indices used by the annuity, was to fall and drop prior to June 1st, assuming you're what's called a point-to-point monitoring schedule here on this allocation, you would have earned that year 0%. And again, I know this is hard for people to follow, but they're thinking, then why was I in the market? Folks, you're not in the market. The company, the insurance company is buying stock options. Those stock options are priced at certain ways. They're affected by interest rates. Lots of things go into that. But in this case, this was called a point-to-point. In other words, you're kind of out of control because that market could drop prior to the renewal date of your contract, which is what we saw a lot this year. But now we have a couple of companies that offer this. It's ability for you to go in and lock in this rate mid-year. So let's say now the market's up to 8 or 9%. You're in the middle of the term of your contract. Normally you can't do anything about it. You just got to hope it works out. You can go in and lock in those rates. So folks, there's a lot of different types of products coming out in the world of annuities. More and more people selling them. In fact, it's amazing, even Wall Street now, look at this article, One more firm from Wall Street starting to peddle annuities. They see the virtue of the protection, and of course, with some of the annuities, we can provide what we call that beloved mailbox money. So if that's you right now, if you're sitting there thinking about buying an annuity, maybe you've got an old annuity, maybe you've been recently pitched an annuity at a dinner seminar or a local university, whatever the case may be, at least get a second opinion from somebody who's working with these products for years. That's Tony Walker Financial. To learn more or to meet with me in person or talk over the phone, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Or give us a call anytime at 877-499-9255. We'll be right back, folks. Our client spotlight today shines brightly on Miss Kim DeFazio. And Miss DeFazio, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I'd like to, first of all, just tell the audience briefly, what did you do for a living prior to your retirement?
Prior to my retirement, I worked for the Federal Railroad Administration. I was a rail integrity specialist, and then I retired at the end of January 2023.
That's awesome. Remind me, how did you find out about Tony Walker Financial? Do you remember?
Well, I had a financial advisor prior to your team, and I wasn't happy with some of the fees that they were charging me. And I was talking to my family member, and we just happened to talk, and he said, "Have you ever heard of Tony Walker Financial?" And I said, "Yes, I have." And he said, "Well, you know, I'm one of his clients." So he said, "I would encourage you to call Tony and talk with him." And that's what I did.
Oh, thank you very much. So your experience thus far, you've been with us a couple of years, but now that you're retired, tell us about the audience, about the experience you've had with the staff and our ability to respond to your needs.
Tony, I mean, it's hands down. If I have a question or I have a concern, all I need to do is call that phone number. Everyone is ready to help out with whatever. And it's prompt. I mean, it's prompt service. It's not like I wait 2 weeks or a week and then somebody gets back with me. So I like that customer service feel.
Well, Mr. Fazio, we appreciate your business so much and look forward to many years to come. So thank you.
You're welcome, Tony. Thank you.
And you're welcome as well.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
One of the most common questions of savers is what to do with their 401k plans when they are eligible to roll those 401ks over to another advisor, such as Tony Walker Financial. Problem is, these 401k plans sometimes have different ways that the money inside is taxed. For instance, they can contain pre-tax money, after-tax money, and even Roth IRA money. So, before the plan we put together can be implemented, we need to know the details of how the particular saver's 401k is going to be taxed. For this reason, we now offer a free service called the 401k Eligibility Call, whereby you and one of our staff will contact your current 401k custodian to confirm these details before we roll the money over to the Worry-Free Retirement process. For more on this free service, I'll turn it over right now to our in-house 401k rollover specialist, Mr. Craig Davis.
Generally speaking, rolling over a 401k here at Tony Walker Financial is a pretty easy process. I reach out to the client, make sure they've got time in their schedule for a 15-minute phone call. Then we do a conference call to their custodian. The custodian asks a few security questions. They want to make sure that they can have a discussion with me on the line. They always talk about something called a special tax notice or your rollover options if somebody's seen that in the last 6 months or so. So we prepare people for some of the questions that they'll get when they're on the call. Then we confirm the amounts, whether or not it's all pre-tax or if they have Roth money in there. And then we work through the process of how the funds will be delivered. Generally, it's through a paper check. People are still often quite surprised about that. They expect something a little bit more electronic. But paper check to the client, then you get the check to us. We deposit it electronically, and it just is that smooth.
Working over these past 40 years with thousands of savers has taught me the most important lesson of all, that the financial world does not understand, and it is this: retirement planning is more of an art than it is a science. So to prove that retirement planning is more of an art than a science, let's take a look at just a few of the ingredients that come with something called retirement planning. The first ingredient is the calculation of numbers based on goals. Folks, to simply crank out numbers for the future is based on variables, and these variables can change. That is not how you do retirement planning. That's why we don't adhere to retirement calculators. This is why we have our own software called the WorryFree Retirement Process software, and in that software we assume very low rates of return. In fact, we don't even inflate Social Security, for instance. We're trying to get this down so low that we make sure that we hit those marks and that we can meet the changes that will come your way. The number two issue is basically everybody's situation is different. Again, articles like this one saying that now you need 1.4 million or whatever the latest magic number is ridiculous. Experience tells us that there is no magic number. I have some people who can support their lifestyle on very little money, and yep, there's some that need even more than 1.4 million. So again, this is why you need a personal plan from someone that is experienced in the art of retirement planning. Well, this is biggie. Know your financial personality. Years ago, I wrote a book called The 3 Personalities of Money. We have a website called The 3 Personalities of Money. You go to 3personalities.com. It's basically making sure you understand first and foremost, are you a saver, investor, or speculator? Because if you're a saver, which is who we work with, you don't want to speculate with your money. That's the key to being worry-free in retirement. Number 4, remember, this is all about cash flow. Cash flow measures the amount of money coming in the front door as opposed to money going out the back door. And having an understanding of cash flow has allowed me to see over the years why we need to maybe take Social Security at certain ages. Cash flow helps me to understand why we might want to use tax-infested money to pay off debts. Folks, a retirement specialist understands cash flow. This is not budgeting. We're trying to make sure we have plenty of money to meet your needs as those needs arise. Number 5, now this gets a little tricky, but this is understanding something called life expectancy. Now, I know we don't know how long we're going to live, but it does help to know a little bit about current health. It helps to know about other family members. Did they live a long time? Did they pass away at a young age? Because once you get a perspective on life expectancy and determining how long you think you can really enjoy this money, it's going to allow us to set up the game plan, and we'll know whether we need to put in some of that beloved money. Number 6, this is something I created years ago. I think it's ingenious, quite frankly. I noticed this more than 20 years ago. I call it the 3 halves of life. Folks, you don't spend money the same way as you get into retirement. In fact, I've found that most people actually wait too long to spend their money. So it's at halftime that you want to start enjoying your money. Then when you get into the second half of life, that's the period of time that I've found that the majority of people spend less and less. A retirement planning specialist has to understand this. And finally, 7th, the last point we're going to make is, how much do you really want to leave at death? I mean, I get it, folks. We'd all like to leave as much as we can, but sometimes you have to make it a priority. How much are you going to enjoy in retirement? And maybe is it better to give some of that money away while you're alive rather than hoarding it and stockpiling it and leaving it to heirs at death? And keep in mind, if you've got a tax-infested IRA or 401k and you die with that puppy, it's going to get passed to your heirs and they're going to be stuck with a tax tumor. Remember, that tax tumor does not go away. So if you're sitting here thinking of these points and saying, Tony, I never realized, retirement does seem like more of an art than a science. The problem is I feel like I'm getting treated like an experiment by these scientists out there and I don't know what to do. Well, that's because you need a game plan. So to take advantage of this free offer to talk to me, here's what I would do right now. If you're a saver, retired, retiring soon, let's set up that free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. All you got to do, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. Well, what does the Bible have to say about wisdom and experience, and can it relate to who you choose to select to handle your retirement savings? You bet. Let me get a cup of coffee. We'll be right back. You know, Heather, I think back to 2006. Is that when you started? Okay, I think I hired you for like tax planning. Was that your title then? Something like that.
It was financial research coordinator, I think. It took me a minute to think of that.
Well, I've been in the business so long up until then, and I understood the need for tax planning. But we really didn't have any strategic plans. We didn't have a department. Speak to, as we fast forward now to 2024, our tax planning department and the role they play behind the scenes. I don't think people realize how much work they do, but the importance of the role they play behind the scenes at no additional charge. We don't charge for these services, but for our clients of Tony Walker Financial.
Right. I think you originally hired me, like you said, for essentially some tax planning. I had a background in accounting. Right now, our tax planning department consists of TJ Reagan and Leanne Tinsley. And there's so many tax issues in retirement. I think people are just like, oh, you pay your taxes. But it does change with retirement in between required minimum distributions, possible Roth conversions, legacy planning, estate planning. There are so many issues that are involved in your retirement as far as taxes go. And to have two full-time people on staff that can answer those questions, and they work, as you mentioned, they work behind the scenes. There's a lot of tax planning inside the plans that we present to potential clients. They may not see that initially, but it's in there. And because we're trying to be proactive as much as we can on tax issues that may come their way.
And then also, I think what a lot of people don't realize, I had some clients, prospective clients yesterday, they're moving forward. And the lady, she was so funny. She said, so make sure I understand this. Really what you're going to be doing is taking over the paycheck we were getting. You're taking all the taxes out and all that. So speak to our tax planning department too, how we hone in. Not only are we just going to send them money so they can continue to enjoy retirement, we're also doing all the calculations, the withholdings, all that. How does that process work?
Yes. So that's one of the things we do even look at when we're preparing a plan. Especially TJ, he does look at what we're projecting income to be. And then based on current tax brackets, of course, we can try to guess at future, but good luck. But then we look at those tax brackets that they will be currently in given projected income. And also that will factor in if we're looking at Roth conversions, trying to stay within their current tax bracket and things of that nature. So it's a great service to have, and not every advisor has that ability to do that.
Looking for an advisor you can trust? Schedule your free phone call with Tony at TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 1-877-499-9255.
If someone were to ask me what unique ability Tony Walker brings to the retirement planning table, I would sum it up in two words: age and experience. At the age of 64, I now have 40 years of experience in the field of finance, including extensive training under some of the most brilliant financial minds and organizations in the financial industry. I've gained working knowledge and experience in meeting in person with some 20,000 savers, most of whom are retired or nearing retirement. This experience that has come not from books and watching YouTube videos, but watching actual savers' lives play out. I have extensive experience in overseeing more than 5,000 written game plans and the experience in building an independent retirement planning firm that, in my humble opinion, is unmatched in the service and expertise in the art of retirement planning. And with all this experience comes something else of great importance, that being wisdom. Wisdom that not only is real-world based, but also biblical, as I am reminded that in life, and yes, in planning for one's retirement, contrary to what the financial world is preaching, let's say putting up $1.4 million in retirement to get through retirement, there really is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to what people want and need for their future. God has in fact wired us all different, and thank God that He has done so. The Bible speaks to this notion of experience and why having experienced people with wisdom around is a must and should be in order when we are structuring our lives and our retirement. God's Word refers to these folks as elders. An elder is literally a person that is older than most, someone who by the very nature of their age is more experienced in life, and hopefully, due to their many experiences, able to counsel and support others who have yet to experience what they have. This is very apparent in my daily mission of helping savers worry less about money. You see, in my daily walk, I see hundreds of new prospects each and every year who literally come to me knowing that I'm very experienced in the art of retirement planning. And they want me to show them how they can be worry-free with not what the financial world is telling them they should have, but rather how to be worry-free with what they've got. Based on my many years of experience in this field, if I were to share one word of wisdom, it would be to turn to the many words of wisdom found within the pages of God's Word. This search for wisdom and the many scriptures I have learned from about life and money led me to write this book, Live Well, Die Broke. A book that was born out of this wisdom found in 1 Timothy 6:7, where it simply states this: "We have brought nothing into this world, and it is certain that we can carry nothing out." In other words, regardless of whether you have $1 or $1.4 million, none of us can take this stuff with us. That's because we all die broke. More wisdom to this point comes to us from Paul. We're in Romans 12:2. He says that the first step of wisdom is not being conformed to this world, but rather being transformed. How? By the renewing of your mind. You see, friend, the reason you want to be transformed in your way of thinking is so that you can test and approve what the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God actually is in your life. And yes, this applies to your money and what you will need in retirement. The worst thing you can do is listen to the world and fall into the trap of focusing and comparing yourself to others, or worse yet, stressed out over the mind-boggling messages coming from the financial world who still believe that retirement planning is a science and has not discovered that it is actually an art. My advice? Whoever you're seeking financial advice from, make sure that person and the organization that is handling your life savings truly have knowledge and experience in the subject matter at hand. Confirm how many people they have counseled. Confirm that others have benefited from their wisdom, and above all else, confirm if the people giving you advice are, as the late great John Bogle said, willing to eat their own cooking. Translation? Are these same advisors giving you advice on what to do with your money practicing what they are preaching? Are they too investing in the same products, strategies, and the way of life that mirrors your goals and your values as well? So the question of the day is not whether you have enough money to retire in comfort. No, the real question is, do you have someone in your corner that you can trust to give you advice on your life savings and how you will spend it during this brief remaining time here on earth? Do you have an advisor who you consider to be an elder, someone who has experience and wisdom in the art of retirement planning, who is not going to pigeonhole you in some one-size-fits-all strategy or philosophy? Well, my name is Tony Walker, and for the past 40 years, I've made it my life's mission to help savers worry less about money, and I want to see if I can help you too. And we've made this real easy to get acquainted. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how easy it is for you and I to talk by phone. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on that Let's Get Started button, and we're going to arrange that phone call. After we talk, if it looks like I can be of help, we're going to meet in person. That's right, you and I in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or give us a call anytime at 877-499-9255. Well, that's all the time we have for today's program, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free, and of course, you make it a good one.